This morning on BRN, retirement litigation focuses on the allocation of forfeitures. Joining me now are David Levine, Kevin Walsh. Both are principals with Groom Law Group. That's an employee benefits law firm based in Washington, D.C. David, Kevin, great to see you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Jeff, thanks so much for having us. It's great to see you on video, moving from podcast to live video. We love it.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're still waiting for the audience to kind of weigh in on whether or not they want me to go back to podcast. Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about this morning. Kevin, I want to come to you because I want to talk about litigation and specifically the allocation of forfeitures. Can you give us the basics around that?
Yeah, so just to give you the basics of what's going on here is there's been a wave of litigation since 2023. And it's related to plans that have plan language that says that, if a participant leaves the plan before their benefits become vested, then the employer can use those forfeited benefits essentially to offset future employer contributions. And so it's language in the plan document that says that they can do this. And then you have the plan operating, implementing, forfeiting benefits. And essentially the allegations boil down to the idea that if you're a plan fiduciary and you're operating in one of those plans and the plan document says you can do this, that when you actually do it, you're using your fiduciary hat and that's impermissible. So there's some real tension here between, the intent of the employer who drafts the plan saying, look, when benefits are forfeited, we're going to use them first before I'm required to make my contributions. And then kind of this new view of what the impact is in implementation. So, that's an overview. I think David's going to talk a little bit more about what we've seen in the wave of cases, but that sets the table.
Thank you for doing that. David, I want to come to you. Kevin laid it out nice. Let's talk about what these cases are about, because as Kevin said, this is kind of a new lens that I think litigants are looking through.
Absolutely, Jeff. And I think that's kind of a key thing here, that plaintiffs at this point, the theories of liability in 401k plans have changed so much over the last 15, almost 20 years of the modern era of 401k litigation at this point. And the plaintiffs basically come in and say, to expand on where Kevin was to begin with, they say, that's great that your plan says you may, but you're wearing that fiduciary hat. And when you wear that fiduciary hat, what that means is it's okay that you might do it, but underneath it all, your duty is to maximize benefits for participants and beneficiaries, not to reduce employer cost. That's what the plaintiffs say. But what have the courts said is the key thing. We have a little bit of a split right now, like for instance, in Intuit's case, the case is moving forward. But there are a number of cases, HP, BAE a week ago, and I think it's Thermo King was, I think, the one that came out just in the last day. We're recording this on a Friday. And the reason I say that is these cases have said, you know what? The plan permits the use. And even more importantly, and I think that's a big thing, the guidance that's out there from the IRS, from the DOL, has long recognized that you can use forfeitures to offset employer contributions. So the big question here is, where does this go? Because as some cases move beyond a motion to dismiss, that gets more weedy and more complex for everybody who's watching. That just takes a lot more time, money, and resources. The motion to dismiss are successful. Will people try to come back with new theories? We'll have to see. But I think one big takeaway is that it's definitely far from a slam dunk. There's a separate question we can go to, of course, which is, what should sponsors do at this point? And admittedly, with cases going in different directions, it's hard to say this one solution works. And to be perfectly fair, if you look at the alerts that all these law firms, including ours, have put out, they don't always all say the same thing. Now, there's themes, there's discussion of if your plan prescribes a hierarchy or about how money is spent on forfeitures, or is it that it makes it clear that it must be done in a certain way, sort of trying to hardwire it. That's an argument. There's arguments back and forth from the plaintiffs that we'll see on this as we go. Plus, to bring in something my friend Kevin always loves to bring up, because he is a guru on this, is that in some cases, the plaintiffs have already started saying, well, it's great the agencies say this, but guess what? you don't need to defer to the agencies anymore, the Loper-Bright decision. So there's a lot in the mix here, but as a sponsor, it's figuring out how to make your plan clear and address these items. But there is no one specific solution, but you can look to the cases and maybe take some things away.
Kevin, thanks, David, for that. Kevin, I want to kind of close out with you. These things have to wind their way through the courts, as David said, and you said it takes time. There are steps that plan sponsors can take to add some clarity. But assuming this moves down certain directions, is there an opportunity for our regulators, the Department of Labor and others, to kind of weigh in here, or the legislative branch to weigh in? Are those potential outcomes, or does it strictly reside itself in the courts?
Well, so that's a tricky question, and it's tricky because the regulators have traditionally allowed this, and so the plan language reflects language that essentially regulators have said works. If this litigation continues, essentially despite what regulators have said, there's always some chance that regulators will pivot their views. That would not be a great thing, but more likely, if the litigation continues and the outcomes aren't plan sponsor friendly, at some point Congress will likely be asked to get involved to make it clear that employers don't have to just keep making additional contributions when a plan already has sufficient money in it to meet the obligations that the employer has promised when offering the plan.
And David, I lied. It's not the last question. I just want to come to you to kind of close things out and maybe tease out our next segment. And that is, we seem to be seeing lots of different flavors of litigation. This is an example, but there are others. Maybe we can tease out maybe some of our next topics of discussion.
Sure, absolutely, Jeff. There are lots of flavors of litigation, whether on the defined benefit classic pension side of the house, where you see litigation over actuarial assumptions, like how you convert one benefit form to another, or if someone retires late. Those lawsuits are still proceeding, and they make similar arguments, sort of, oh, well, the regulation said this or the statute says this, it should be interpreted that way. Similarly, we continue to see the evolution of 401k fee lawsuits generally, with a focus on things, whether ancillary services, managed accounts, privacy, and we'll see a lot more of that coming forward. So these are things we could talk about in future segments.
Yeah, excellent analysis, gentlemen. It's always great to, keyword here, see you and hear you. Thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you for having us on, Jeff, and thank you, viewers.
Yes, thank you, viewers.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Details at our website. Until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.